Alright, so this is a story of when I ended up in a mental hospital, or an asylum if you want to call it that, but it was a mental hospital. Anyways, this takes place around 2017 to 2018. This was when I was a senior. I was around 17 to be 18 years old. Um, so, for background, I live in Puerto Rico. I don't live in the States. And I am type 1 diabetic. And the school that I was studying my senior year for high school was a Catholic school. These are relevant to the story. So, without further ado, let's get into it. So, one day, some classmates in grade 11 started to call me this nickname, which was like school shooter. And I was like, why the hell are they calling me that? And it's like, oh, it's because you're serious, bro. And it's because you got a fanny pack. And the fanny pack I have my medicine and whatnot because I'm type 1 diabetic. So, anyways, throughout those years from 11 to 12, I was called a school shooter because of that. So, on grade 12, I remember, on my senior days, that we got an assignment from computer class. And so, the assignment was like, how to do a video on how to do anything, basically. And I'm like, oh, okay. I don't know what I'm going to do exactly, but I guess I'll figure it out. And one of my classmates through the group of WhatsApp, he asked me, yo, what you thinking about doing? And since, people used to call me the school shooter, I said, like, just for joking, like, oh, I'm going to do a video on how to bring a gun. Because, people used to call me that, and, like, nobody answered. And I was thinking, like, I don't know if that's going to scare them, because, like, where I live in Puerto Rico, there's not, like, any incidents regarding school shootings. There has never been any of that. There has been, killings and whatnot, like in any other country. But where I live, right, there's no school shootings and whatnot. So I thought nothing about it. Went to school. The next day, the kid said, yo, bro, you said that joking, right? And I'm like, of course I said that joking. You guys call me the school shooter. Like, why wouldn't I be joking? Like, bro, I've never had any incident here before. Like, my behavior is good. It's just that, I'm serious in that. That's all. And then, like, another friend of mine, or not a friend, like a acquaintance more so, he pulled me and said, like, yo, bro, you need to be careful because, some people might not know that joke and some people might get, offended or scared. And I'm like, all right, man, I appreciate it. So nothing happens throughout that entire, like, day or anything, or the upcoming ones. But, however, on the upcoming week, which was the next week, obviously, the principal pulls me apart, and she says, yo, what's this supposed to mean? Someone sent us this from the group chat, and you said this. And I'm like, oh, that's just a joke. And she's like, oh, you think this is a joke? And I'm like, yeah, because, like, everybody calls me a school shooter. Like, haven't these like, nicknames have gotten to your ears or something like that? And she was like, no, I've never heard that. And I'm like, really? Everybody calls me a school shooter in my class, at least in my group, because, you get two groups of 12, at least I had, and my group used to call me a school shooter. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then she said, look, you're going to have to do something. You're going to have to get reevaluated or evaluated by a psychiatrist. And I was like, okay, so what's the procedure, man? And she said, like, oh, you need to go to, like, a mental hospital to see if you're going to be in it or if they tell you don't need it. But you're still going to have to go. And I was like, okay. So I went to my general hospital, which was not the mental one, but it's a general hospital. And in there, I waited for, like, a whole day or, like, 12 hours. They took me to another hospital. In that other hospital, they made me wait for, like, a whole ass day, maybe a day and a half, I don't know. And the first hospital, the doctor kind of, the general doctor evaluated me, and he said, like, okay, so you're just going there to get an evaluation because you said something. And he's like, okay, patient is going to get an evaluation at a mental hospital. And the second one, the doctor put something completely different that fucked with me. Basically, the doctor came in at not 12, but I think like 3 or 2 a.m. in the morning. And so he said, like, okay, let me speak to the patient only. I want to hear the patient. And he just woke me up. And I'm like, yeah, what is it? Mind you, it's 2 a.m. And he said, why are you here? And I'm like, oh, because I said something in school. And And I was speaking like this. I was like kind of mumbling, and he was like, okay, okay. And then he spoke to my mom and whatnot, because she was, you know, at the time I was a minor, and she was the adult. And my mom said, you know what he put in the evaluation? He said, patient is mentally incapable of speaking or something like that. And I'm like, what the fuck? I'm like, of course I am unable to speak. It's 2 a.m. and I just woke up from my sleep. What do you expect me to like do? Some math equations? Like I'm full awake? Like what the hell, you know? So anyways, I waited till the morning around like maybe 12 p.m. And so these people come in and they take me to a different town. So I went from one hospital in a town to another one, and then finally to the mental hospital. The mental hospital was really small, so I went in there, and they put me through the second floor, which was the mental hospital. The bottom one was just the general hospital. But the second floor was the mental hospital, where all the patients and doctors and psychiatrists and psychologists were at. So I was there, and the checkup or general checkup doctor is the one that takes you in first, not the psychiatrist. So we went in there, and he's like, okay, why are you here? And I'm like, oh, because I said a comment in a group and it was at school. And he's like, okay. He was chill about it. And he was like, okay, I need you to do some things for me. I need you to get undressed and turn your back here, like go to the corner and just give me your back, and you just squat and cuff. And basically was, you know, like jail, just to see like if you had anything in your anus, you know, for everybody's safety. And I did that. And he's like, okay, everything's good. And then he said, okay, what you're going to do is you're going to wait here. The procedure means this, and that. You're going to be in this room for like 24 hours. We're going to be monitoring you, and you're going to be with other people in there. This is just the examination room where we examine the patients, and it's like mostly just a waiting room until the psychiatrist comes in the next day, and he does the interview, which is like an interview evaluation where he determines, the psychiatrist himself, if you are deemed to get out of there, or if you're going to be inside the mental hospital. So I'm like, okay. My mom said, yo, I need to mention he's type 1 diabetes. You know, he has type 1 diabetes. And he's like, okay, so what are his medications? He's like, oh, he uses these 2 medications. This depends on diabetics. You know, it depends, because if some people have only 1 vial of a certain company brand. But in this case, I had 2. I had Humulin N and Humalog. And basically one is a fast one and one is a slow one, and it combines. One is for short durations and the other one is for extended long durations, like when I go to sleep or when I wake up throughout the day. So anyways, the guy's like, okay, what is his dosage? And my mom was like, okay, yeah, his dosage is this and that. I use variation of doses, because depending on my blood sugar, if I'm high or low or medium, I mean, it could be like 120 of blood sugar. A high could be like 200 or whatnot. So my mom said, yo, I'll give you the phone number of the specialist, which obviously is the doctor who studies and works for the people who are diabetic. And he was like, dead ass, he said, like, no, I don't need that. I'm a doctor. I know what I'm doing. And I'm like, bro, like, this guy said he's a doctor. Yeah, you're a doctor, but you're a general doctor. You're not like the specialist. It's like saying, like, if he's a doctor and they ask him, yo, let's call in the surgeon. He's like, I'm a doctor. I know how to do surgery. It's like, no, you don't, bro. You're a general doctor. So anyways, I went in, they took my stuff, and they took my medicine, and I went to this room, and in this room, we had outside of, like, the room, nurses, like, maybe 1 or 2, and then in it, we have a division where there was a whole desk of people, like, observing the cameras and both sides, because one side, it was the male side, and the other one was the female side, so obviously I went to the male sides. And there was a lot of people there. There was, like, at least 10 people when I came in, and I remember, like, the bathroom door, it didn't have no lock-in, obviously, because it's a mental hospital, and for everybody's safety, there's no lock. But I felt kind of, like, threatened. I felt weird, because, like, you're in this room with a bunch of people that you don't know, and this is not, like, school. This is, like, grown-ass people, old people, young people. Everybody's in there. And everybody has a different mental problem. And I started to talk to these people. Well, I didn't begin. They asked me questions. Turns out one of the dudes was a teacher, and he knew one of my classmates. yada yada. And there were some people there who were like, depressed, like really, really depressed. You could tell them in their faces look gloomy. And some people who were just kind of depressed, but not like fully depressed or suicidal. And I went to the bathroom and I got scared because I'm like, yo, if any of these people try to like molest me here, and that was the chance, like Jesus Christ. And I felt like vulnerable at that time. And I got out of the bathroom. I remember they gave me my dosage, and when they gave me my dosage, the guy was like, yeah, I'll put 5 units and this and that. And it was the nurse, right, the male nurse. And I say, oh, excuse me, that's not my proper dosage. We told the general doctor of like the proper dosages. And he's like, look, man, I'm gonna be honest. He told me like he's just a nurse and he's following only the rules because for my safety and everybody's safety, if a patient tells him to do this, and it could be right, it could be wrong, but he's like, look, man, if I do something and it ends up going bad, it's gonna mess me up in my job and I could lose my job, and the worst case scenario, you can also die or something like that. And I'm like, okay, I understand that. So he gave me the dosage. I didn't eat much because that wasn't enough for me to like eat a lot of food, so I ate like really small amounts, and I left the other stuff and I threw it away. Literally, like I lost the whole food that my mom brought me. So the next day we wake up, and mind you, I forgot to say this, but before the next day at like 12 a.m., like midnight, there's this kid that comes in, and this kid, I don't know if he's autistic with some problems or like, I don't know, but he doesn't say a word, and he shows up fully covered in scars and blood, like, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, what the hell happened? And he looked like a person who was not capable of speech, or maybe he had trauma or something like that. He looked feral. I'm not lying, and this kind of scared me because I'm like, this dude looks like he could actually kill someone because he's covered in scars. But he didn't show any aggression. He was just like there, like a mindless body, and that kind of scared me. So, anyways, the next day we go in and we see the females as well, because everybody, the males and the females, they're going for lunch. They give you this antidepressant because basically they want to numb you, because you don't know, like maybe there is someone there who's like an aggressor, like has some mental problems, like psychosis or something like that, and it ends up like hurting other people. But anyways, we went in there and we went back into the room after we ate, and we waited for the psychiatrist to arrive. The psychiatrist arrived, he did my interview, and he said, why are you here? And I'm like, I told him basically the fuck up I did, and he told me, look, man, you're young, don't say that stuff. Even if you're joking, don't say it. There's limits to jokes and limits to certain areas. Don't ever say that, especially in a group. And you're joking, you're obviously joking. You don't need to be in this mental hospital, so I'm gonna get you out of here. Is there anything else that's going on with your life? And I'm telling him, yeah, sometimes I'm depressed. And he's like, okay, I'll give you some medication, and you can visit this psychiatrist outside of here, and yada yada. Yeah, let's call your mom. They called my mom. She went in. He said basically the same thing, and then he told my mom, like, look, if you need some approval or some type of certification for the school, they're gonna have to be the ones to pick it up, because I need to know why this information is going out. I can't just give it to you guys because I don't know what you're gonna do with it for the safety of everybody here. And he said the school needs to bring a representative to pick up this information so we can allow him to go back to school. So my mom said, okay. They took me in. She went to the school, and the school said, guess what? Oh wow, he got out. Oh, I'm surprised. That was the director who said that. And my mom told her, like, yeah, you guys need to send in a representative, or you need to go in directly yourself and just pick up the documentation for the approval of my son going back to school. And she said, well, we can't do that. So yeah, and I did all of that just for nothing, literally just for nothing. And guess what? I never went back to school. I did graduate from that school, but I was suspended until graduation. I was not expelled, I was suspended. So I graduated literally at my house doing the schoolwork and the exams. And yeah, that's basically the story of how I ended up in a mental hospital. And yeah, I learned from my lessons. Obviously, don't say those type of stuff, especially at school or work. And yeah, I fucked up, but I learned from it. Anyways, thanks for tuning in and listening to this story. Bye bye.